Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest, and I'm going to hope to do her name justice, is Vesna Flower Cvjeticanin. I hope I did that justice or not. It's a difficult name to pronounce, but we're going to be talking about today her book, The Unexpected Life. We're also going to talk about Be Ambitious. Yes, she says, that's right. It's not an ugly word. Life is full of possibilities, but also there's a lot of expectations from ourselves and the people around us. She says, if we lack ambition, we do not know where to go in life. Ambition should be with a royal capital A. Be kind, understanding, honest, and a flair to people, and fair to people in your journey towards your goal. They will come with you, or at least they will generously help you along the way. Participate in life fully, happily, enthusiastically. Be there more for your people. Be present, explore, be brave, dance and sing. And she said, do more of this. Repeat. Think of nature that surrounds you, moments of calm, beautiful sunrises, sunsets. Enjoy the smell of the linden trees. Dispose of the rubbish thoughtfully. Touch the soil and play with it. Cook hearty meals and exercise. She is a impact meditator, and the site is impact meditation, and it's all about how we can tap into that essence of life, that beautiful vibration of life that goes through us. She's worked for 3 years and working in her own business as a mediator. She possesses the knowledge and skills and ethics needed to help you with your whatever matters to you. And she's confident that she can work with you and assist you in reaching your desired outcome. But most importantly, reach it with enthusiasm and positivity. So let's find out about her journey. Has she always been positive? Did she have to become positive? And what is the journey all about? Welcome to the show, my dear.
Hello, Sarah.
So we've got this book we're going to be talking about, but you reside in Australia, but that is not your home of origins. So let's reverse back to the origins. Where are you actually from?
I'm from Serbia. And actually, when we talk about Serbia, some people will remember a country that existed as an entity, and it was called Yugoslavia. So
Mhm.
that was where I was born. It actually started in the early 20th century and got dissolved in the late 20th century. A short life for a country.
Yes, very short life. A lot of turmoil that went on in that midst of that. And so many people having to flee or having to face dangers every day. And were you one to leave because of it, because you could no longer exist there?
Well, it's a really interesting question because when I think about my journey, my life journey, I have to say that I never thought I would leave my hometown,
Hmm.
not the country, the hometown. I loved it. I loved living in Sombor, which is in the north of Serbia, and it is only 25 kilometers from the Hungarian border. And
Hmm.
that actually explains, and we might touch on that a bit later, my ethnic uh, roots, which are half Hungarian, half Serbian.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it is with much hesitation that I actually left the country and for Australia. I cannot say that I was a refugee because I wasn't pushed out of the country. I wasn't chased by the government. I wasn't escaping um, armed forces or anything like that. However, when I think about the year, or whoever remembers that, when I think about the year we left the country, in 1990, it was starting to feel unsettled. And in 1991, of course, the war broke down, or broke up. And when I think about that year, and my coming to Australia, going to Australia, I just remember that feeling of, I cannot go back. I actually don't feel safe to go back. And sometimes I have to say, I feel guilty that I didn't come back, that I didn't, because we are now talking, I am in Serbia at the moment visiting. But when I think about this country, I love being here. I am nostalgic about it. I loved my life before life in Australia, but now I've made peace with both.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, people don't actually understand the mindset of an immigrant. I've immigrated 3 times. So born in England, went to South Africa, lived in the States for a while, here now in Canada. And it's, yes, I didn't have the language barrier, so I had English wherever I went. But there's cultural barriers. There's, different types of English where you have to adjust to. It's also, you're considered an outsider,
Yeah.
until you've been there a while. And even I'm coming up here 44 years and people still address me as English. Well, I think I'm pretty Canadian by now, but it's it's and I think it's for people who, that choice, do I go back? It's war torn. Am I foolish to go into a country that's full of war, but I love my country. Shouldn't I be there? And
Exactly.
it's that kind of constant toss up. And you have to kind of sometimes step back and go, what's best for you? Because
Mm,
if it's best for you, then you're more in a position to help other people. But putting
mm.
yourself in detriment or in misery or guilt or anything else is not productive for yourself. So therefore, how can you be productive for anyone else?
Sarah, that's so true. And that's building on what I said before and what you so beautifully explained, is that feeling of guilt. But
Mm,
then you need to see, where would I be, or where would my life go had I not,
mm,
um, made that step. The One of the things that I always remember, with somehow feeling of relief,
mhm.
is that our parents at that time, my husband and my parents, were saying, just for now, stay where you are.
Yeah.
Just for now, for us, for you, for your children. And that's the feeling I have, whenever, and I still sometimes do,
Yeah.
I doubt the move. And whenever I doubt that move, I do hear my dad saying on the phone, look, just stay where you are. And my husband's parents saying, if you're happy there, stay as long as you want. Here, it's the situation is dire.
And of course, if you have children, one has to put the children first. Are you going to take them back to disruption or it's unknown? Are you going to walk them into the lion's den? Or, are you going to, what do we do as parents? We want to give our children the best life possible. And
That's
so,
right.
going back into a situation that is unsure isn't being just for them. So your parents were thinking of their children and you're thinking of your
Ah,
children. And so,
it's
that is just a parent's role, right?
Yeah, I mean, hard times,
Mm,
difficult to make decisions,
mhm.
and emotional at the same time as, um, uh, just economic
Yeah.
considerations, safety, physical safety, and then also it comes to, where do I want to be?
Mhm.
I want to be with my parents. I wanted to be with my friends
Yeah.
because they were suffering. But then on the other hand, I was thinking, I do need to be there for my children. And as they say on the plane, put your mask on first.
Yes, 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 exactly. No, for many people, that guilt I should have, the expectation, because there's always these expectations in life of having to be there. How long did it take you to kind of go, we're here, we're going to build a life, and I'm going to do it with a positive attitude.
Look, positive attitude has always been part of my life
Hmm.
and part of my personality. And I think that that positivity really helped me to deal with a number of things in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the I have to say, in 1990, when we decided to stay in Australia, that was in November 1990, it took me 4 years to feel confident enough to say, and my children have grown out of nappies and all of that, to say to my husband, you know what, I do need to go back. I need to see with my own eyes
Yes.
what's happening out there. And that was then September 1994 that I went with my children for 7 weeks. And I said to my husband, by that time, we had jobs, we
Mm-hmm.
had started paying off our mortgage for the house and everything. 4 years is not a lot, but it is a relatively long period in one's life.
Yes.
And I said to him, you know what, you stay here. I'm going to go back. I'm going to see what's happening. And if I decide I can stay there with the children and live there, just sell everything, leave the job and come back.
Mm-hmm.
And that was our agreement. After about 3 or 4 weeks, I felt so homesick for Australia. I
Yes.
cannot explain. So I think that was the point. It took me 4 years of
Mm-hmm.
being tremendously unsure and homesick for Serbia. And then I came here and I just couldn't wait to touch down in Australia.
I say to anybody that's ever emigrated, go back, because while you're away, when you're starting and but this isn't like the old country, and suddenly the old country seems to be bigger and better and everything else, and you don't immerse yourself into the new country until you go back and then measure what you really do have in the new country. And I think for everyone, it's a good idea. Go back. The first 2 or 3 weeks is memory and fantasy and everything else, and then reality hits. There was a
Yes,
reason why you left, and
it was,
and
it was a
that
horrific.
you got to immerse yourself in your new domain.
Yeah, yeah. And that is one of the best advices. Yes, I agree with you. Go back and visit and see, do you matter there
Yeah.
anymore?
Yes. I mean, every time I go back to England, my brother and sister still live there. They lived in South Africa. Then my brother lived here for a while and all ended up over there because they were looking after mum. And then when mum died, they were just there. And I go home and it's wonderful to go down memory lane and it's wonderful to go to the old places. And gosh, I wish I could pick up that house and bring it over here and, all of that type of thing. But then I realize I've been gone so long. I'm a stranger there. I'm a foreigner. I'm no longer a British person to the British people because my mannerisms, my thoughts, my lifestyle has molded me into who I am today, and it's not the British way.
So interesting, isn't it?
Hmm.
And one of the outcomes of all of that is, and I sort of digress a little bit, is the feelings that we as a family have
Yeah.
towards country, towards Serbia. We, all four of us, my son, my daughter, my husband, and I, we love it. And we regularly visit.
Hmm.
This time, my husband and I, because the children have their own lives, they
Yes.
have their own
Mm.
children, they have
Yes.
their responsibilities and everything. We've retired from full-time job, um, and we just said, okay, we'll just come and stay as long as we feel like.
Hmm.
So at the moment, we are thinking we've just arrived 2 weeks ago, and at the moment we are thinking until October. So we'll see. But I have to say, what's going to happen is we will remember this longer stay through rose glasses because it's spring
Hmm.
and summer is
Yes.
coming. It's
Yes.
all going
Yes.
beautiful. And there are cherries and sour cherries
Yes.
and first, capsicum and cucumbers. Everything is beautiful and rich crops, everything. So, we sort of pick and choose now. And thank God that we can.
Yes, and of course, if you stay October, November, December when it's bitterly cold and there's snow, and you go, Australia, I'm coming. Because yes, yeah, it takes. I mean, it took me a while when I went from England. I'm going from rain and cold and fog where I was to South Africa to the heat, and just like it took me a while to adjust to that. And then when I moved to Canada, it was kind of like moving back to British weather. And it took me a good couple of years to adjust to that, back to the cold. So it isn't just the environment or the culture, it's also the weather has an effect on you as well.
Definitely.
So, staying positive through everything, I mean, there isn't one living soul that hasn't gone through stuff. And it's not a compare or compete, it's about how much we can take, how much it affects our lives, what we do with it. We don't choose what happens to us. We can choose what we do with it or how we react to it. And that does require, even in some of the darkest times, that positive attitude. The sun will come out tomorrow. Sometimes you just have to believe that.
It's a new day.
So it's that kind of form of positive meditation or affirmation very often concede the way forward, can't it?
And I do need to do a slight correction, but it will change people's thinking about what I do. It's mediation rather
Mediation,
than
sorry, yes.
meditation. Yes, it's
There's
impact
my
mediation.
dyslexia. Yeah.
Oh, look, that's okay. And often people say medication,
Yeah,
meditation.
This is not the
Yeah,
first time I've done that. Again, my letters turning for me. This is one of the issues there. But I mean,
look,
mediation is not unlike meditation in the form of channeling, what really is important and really getting to, the crutch or something. So it is a mindset at the same time, isn't it?
and I think that's actually there is that common root
Mm.
to words, I think. But I always see it like that as well. And when people say meditation, it's like, yeah, we can meditate through the process as well. But yes, there is that, and going back to the positive attitude and to hope that things can be better. And then from that hope, I go into belief that things can be better. And that's
Yes.
how I process. That's the thing in meditation. And in mediation, you get to that point where you say, these two people can work together.
Yeah.
I can work with them to find that common ground, and I can work with them to understand. First, we are unpeeling the onion, and then we start understanding. We get the sense of where we are and where we can go through that. And that's very meditative.
Yes, it is. And the layers, it's all the layers, isn't it? I mean, when you're looking at an onion, yes, it's a round thing, but you can peel back the membrane, the onion part, another layer and another layer. And really when you're mediating something, when you're trying to get to a point and an agreement, we have to pull back the layers. We have to be able to shift people from just that perspective and have them go around and look at it from all angles so they can actually understand it from the other perspectives as well.
Exactly. And that's a very important and often the crucial step to get the parties to actually start thinking. And look, sometimes it takes time. It can't be solved in 4 hours or in a day. Sometimes we have more sessions. But we can talk about mediation later on. Going back to what really drives me and what really takes me and what I fly on. It's that feeling that things can be, difficulties can be overcome.
Yes.
As long as I feel that heart beating in me, and as long as I feel that I have the physical energy and then the emotional and psychological ability to actually deal with something that is in front of me. And you mentioned that people have difficult experiences, and everyone has, of course. Like pain threshold, difficulty can have so many different shades, and there is nuance to saying, "Oh, this is difficult." Yes, that grade 3 maths problem is difficult, but then later on you get into real obstacles in life, and you say, let's just go back to that little grade 3 problem and try to solve it bit by bit. And that's how I do it. So that's that unpacking, that's that layering and opening any difficulties. But I think, and going back on my understanding of what's difficult, pain threshold, as I mentioned, can be really higher or lower. How do we determine that? What's
and should
painful
it be
for you?
measured? Yeah.
Exactly. But I do feed myself with positive feedback. And I say, hey, this was painful. Was it of a kind that I could sustain if that something like that happens next time? And I just want to go back and say something about, I lost my mom when I was 21 and she was 41. I mean,
young
I
age.
just can't imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, young. And she was unwell for about 3 years. And and that was a struggle. When you are 18, 19, 20, you really want to go out and have fun and mix with friends. And I didn't have much of that. The best thing that happened to me was to find my future husband, the one that I'm with till now. And this year we are celebrating 40th anniversary.
Wonderful. Love to hear that.
Yes, I did. But then I thought, okay, I've gone through this. I'm safe. My dad is going to live to a long, happy life, and he's going to be with us. Like that, he disappeared. And I just couldn't believe it. And I just couldn't believe it. So I was just, okay, it was not meant to happen. But when it was happening with mom, I thought, I don't know if I could live through that, something like that again. And that's that. And then completely unexpectedly, a horrible accident happens. And then you say, I have to deal with this. And again, here are my little list. Am I. Here are some other people in my life, my younger brother, his family. What do we do if we succumb to that difficulty? And that's where then I pull out my positivity and I say, thank God I've got good health. Thank God I've got my brave attitude towards life. And I'm here and I have to deal with that. And I'm
Gratitude
grateful.
is huge, isn't it? It's huge. You know, I wake up every morning, thank you, I'm awake today. Right? You know, I have no idea what the day is going to bring, but I woke up. Right? So, you know, the day is before me for me to look at it as an adventure and a wonder, what am I going to do? What am I going to learn? You know, what am I going to see today? And I think that we're in a world where everybody's expecting. You know, expectation of what you should be like, how many likes you should have, how many popular, you know, how rich you are, how famous you are, how this or that you are. And what we're not doing is paying attention to the little things to be grateful. I am. I'm not the doing, I am the being. And if I step into the gratitude of the day, tapping into nature, tapping into just what's around me, then I'm immersing myself in my day, in my life, and I'm more likely to get positive things happen than I am just going on with blinkers or chasing this carrot that we never catch up with.
Yes, exactly. And I'm just looking at the other part of my screen and those 3 points that in preparation for this interview, and thank you for that, you asked me to somehow extract, and it is be ambitious and participate in life and think of the nature that surrounds you. It really, I did have, a few other ideas about, don't run if you don't know how to walk.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
Business, business, running a business, and I run my own business and all of that. But then I thought, no, it's really important because, as you said at the beginning, be ambitious. For me, it is not an ugly word.
No.
It is an attitude that we should be ashamed of, because I think it's important. If I want to achieve something, or anyone wants to achieve something, you do need to have that path forward. You need to understand where your journey is going to take you, in which way you're going to step. Are you going to step right or left? Or,
Yeah.
how you're going to make a decision in a split second. And that's that ambition. Okay, I really want to, I know where I'm going. The participation in life, again, sing, dance, and I should do more of that. I'm sure that all of us should do, could do more of that. It is the enthusiasm with which, and you beautifully said, you wake up and you're grateful, and that's exactly that thing. I'm grateful if I don't fall when I trip. Grateful. Oh gosh,
Yes, I caught myself. Yes.
exactly. And then think of the nature. That's the bigger picture. Because yes, we can, while we are working hard towards our goals, and we are really committed, and we are grateful, and we are humble, and all of that. But we do need to think about our surrounds, because we know what's happening, and we see
Yes.
what's happening here. You know what? There is a name for June, and it's in Croatian actually. It's but the same meaning in Serbian. It's called by the linden tree, and that's the smell. It surrounds me everywhere these days. It's May. It started flowering in May. It's not the month in which
I
it was
know.
the
Hang on. You haven't got your
month.
dates right.
Not a month early. Cherries, sweet cherries, black cherries, have almost gone through the from the markets. I just couldn't believe it. I thought, oh, I'm coming here in May, early enough to catch, all those goodies, but almost missed them.
But that's the
And
point there. Like, change happens, is that if we look back on history, we've got complacent. Well, this happens in June. This happens in July. What do you mean it's out of sync? What do you mean it's happened already? And or summers are longer, or winters are harsher. This is nature. This is the earth going through its process. And we've kind of thought, well, hang on, isn't the world here to serve us? No,
no,
absolutely not. We are here in service of each other and this planet, who gives us every single day the food. We're paying rent here on Mother Earth, and Mother Earth is trying to actually evict us because we're not really honoring her at all. And I think by dishonoring the planet that sustains us shows us an attitude that really needs to change, because we've come, but no, everything here on this planet is here to serve me, humankind. No, it isn't. Like, get that out of your head. Every living creature here has a role to play. What is ours? Because we've twisted things around. And if we understand that we're here to serve one another and this planet, then we're a part of it, not for the planet or anybody else to be our servant.
Exactly. And about 5 years ago, I think, and it's almost embarrassing to say that it took me, that long in life to realize some things. But one particular thing, I read a research paper on the role of bees on planet Earth. And I was gobsmacked, and I was just thinking, my goodness, I never saw that little humble bee, domestic bee, is so important.
Yeah.
And every time now I see them, I'm like, welcome, darling. Hey, here's a flower for you. But really, without them doing what they are doing, and along the way producing the wonderful honey,
Exactly.
we wouldn't be here, because plants wouldn't be able to be pollinated, and we won't have any crops and all of that. I mean, really?
Bats. I remember reading something on bats and their significance. The only thing I haven't found a significance for is a mosquito. I think they're just there to annoy us, but I'm sure they have some sort of purpose, but I don't know what it is. Pesky little
They
creatures.
they are food for some other insects.
Exactly, the bottom of the chain there. But the thing about nature, it has a rhyme and reason to everything, right? If we really look at it, I mean, you know, Judi Dench did a wonderful documentary on trees, and they've taken the camera and they've shown the fiber optics of a tree merging with other fiber optics. The entire forest is connected to one another. It doesn't care if you're an oak or an elm or a willow. It's all about the roots connecting, and you can see the fiber optics all connecting with one another. Even when a tree goes down, they connect
Mm.
to it so new life can come from it. Nothing is wasted in the forest. And I look at us and say, we're a forest of people, but we have all the ability in the world to connect, but we just don't know where to plug in. We just looking at it from a wrong angle, aren't we?
No, the thing that really strikes me as, I'm going to use that word, I am going to use that word, unnatural, is really young people or any people. And it's, it's like now middle age and older people who are stuck to their screens, and they don't go out enough, and they don't mix with other
No.
fellow beings, and they don't care. And I just think, goodness me, it's harmful for your body. It's
Yes.
harmful for your mind. I mean, it's a different thing when you and I sit here and chat for half an hour or an hour, and when I check my phone. Sometimes you see people, and what in particular worries me is when I see children in prams
Mm-hmm.
uh, um, holding their phones while mom is doing the shopping or talking to
Yeah.
someone. And I remember myself, okay, I would have been, 4 or 5 or something,
Mm-hmm.
not really pram baby, but I would just, have my face in my hands and listen to what they're talking about,
Yes.
and observe and see their reactions. And that's how I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And you think it was 50 years ago, not more than that.
Yeah.
And now these children, they have no idea what's happening about them, around them. They have their phones. That's their upon waking,
Yes.
while they're eating, in the evening and before bed.
Yeah.
And
You know, it used to be all these shows back in the 60s and the 70s of robots taking over the world. It has. It's called a cell phone. And you know, it's mastered over you because it's made you addicted to it and a slave to it, and now has created a whole new load of problems, not only with cyberbullying and cyber this fair, this the new warfare, you know, going through all of this thing. Now it's like with the conversation with AI, any of these things that we manage to produce that can help mankind move forward technically, it's there to help us be more productive in what we do so that we have more time to be with ourselves and exploration of life. It's not there to replace you, right?
exactly.
That is your choice if you have it do that. It's there to enhance your abilities.
And people actually don't, sometimes they're fearful for their jobs. They're
Yes,
fearful.
yes.
And I think it's back in the 19th century, yeah, let's just destroy machinery because they are replacing us. But exactly that. We will have more time. And I've
Yeah.
had those conversations with very intelligent people
Mm-hmm.
around me. And they would say, oh, AI and this and that. It's like, hey, if you can get someone to write 5 different versions, depending on the audience of an email, but you want to have the same message in there, why not?
Yes,
Good for them.
yes, yes. I've
And
done
AI will do that for you rather than you as an employer paying someone to sit there and, do 5 different letters for the entire day. Sorry.
every industry somewhere along the line has made a particular job obsolete. I remember a few years ago watching a couple of guys that went to the government in America saying, "I want to obliterate, coal mining, um, and reconstruct new energy in different ways." And oh, what about the workers? And so the government just pushed them aside. So they went and did it themselves. And at that point, this is going back to 2016, I think, they had closed down 9 mines and taken retired the older people so they didn't have to work anymore, and all the younger people re-educated into healthier jobs that were more productive. And that's the thing is, in order to live positively with a positive attitude, you have to accept things will change and go with the flow instead of pushing against it, because it's inevitable it's going to push back. And if we can just pick up our feet and turn around and go with it, aware of our role in that new flow, we would be so much better. But all the time we're resisting. Why do we resist so much?
Yes, exactly. And you just use the word flow. And I've got a colleague who is a very, very highly respected and very experienced mediator. And he's got a theory of a flow in mediation.
Mm-hmm.
And mediation is always about conversations
Yes, it
and
is.
about discussions and about dialogue and about open-hearted and honest, putting things on the table before us and all of that. And he says about the flow, he says, every conflict has its flow.
Yes.
It reaches its peaks and then it sort of smooths out
Mm-hmm.
and maybe has another peak or two. But there is that flow, there are waves. And we discover, and I don't want to, misrepresent anything that he says, but that's a beautiful theory. And I actually interviewed him about it a couple of times. He's very exceptional mediator in Australia.
That's my life. It's about rhythm. If it's not in flow, if it's not in rhythm, I know it's out of sync. For
Yeah.
me, when we look at our blood in our body, we look at our oxygen in our body, we look at the water in our body, it must be in flow to optimize our body, optimize our mind and every part of us. If anything is stagnant, then that's when we start having health problems or mental health problems. The rivers are always in flow. If they weren't, they fermented, mosquitoes come out. So this is what's so important about flow. The wind has a reason. It is there to clear things away, to move things along. Everything has a rhythm and a flow in life. And I think when we tap into that, we become less fearful and more optimistic, because the wind's always turning directions, isn't it?
Yeah, and Rolling Stones,
Uh-huh.
the
Mm-hmm.
saying doesn't get moss or
Gather
whatever
moss.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, get moss, exactly. It's a very powerful theory of the flow, and I think that stagnation in life
Mm,
has much to uh, uh, respond for. I think in some
yes.
people's lives.
I mean,
Mm,
that's, part of the work in mediation is that there's a rigidity there where somebody does not want to
mm,
do X, Y, and Z because, they cannot see the benefits of it, right? They can't see how they fit in it. And the other person sees this and sees that. And so it's again those different points of views. And if everybody took their guard down and was
mhm.
able to see the picture more clearly and what can come out of it,
Yeah.
for both people or both parties, I think people would be, I mean, the reason they go into rigidity is fear.
Mm, often, yes, yes. And also saving face. People
Yes.
think I need to, lose face
Uh-huh.
if I do this, or I don't want to give in. Hey, hey, let's just step back and
Yeah.
see a big picture. Let's see. Let's paint our future together or apart, whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is, and let's imagine. And I think that ability to imagine
Mm-hmm.
something and yeah,
Yeah,
go
because
back to.
sometimes there's so, as you said, many cultures. I was married to a Chinese gentleman. The saving face was huge, and
Mm,
even admitting they were wrong. No, I can't do that. I'd lose face, and it's
mhm,
um, and it's we have to sometimes take into consideration that that is that person's culture, and we're not going to convince them like that. That we're going to
mhm,
have to show them face is saved over here, not here. So
yeah.
it's just redirecting them, isn't it? Because it's really hard to go against those cultures that have been thousands of years practicing saving face.
And now touching on this on that aspect of culture, that is something that I really am interested in, and as a 16-year-old, I decided to do diploma in cultural studies. And when I turned 18, I actually went for it. And that was one of the best experiences, one of the best decisions I made as a future lawyer for myself. Because after doing that diploma, I then decided to go and do law. But the ethical principles, the principles of old Greek philosophy, Socrates, and all of those, I've learned in my cultural studies as the basis of at least European cultures, let's say, let's generalize, makes makes sense in certain situations that we are part of. But you realize that there is that geographical, almost geographical limitation to or there are boundaries to which some principles apply because people are different. Through centuries, people have come from an aspect of life, thinking about, let's just think about sadness, new life, illness, death, and there are ethical norms that are accepted in one part of the world, if that makes sense. And then you move geographically, and you see that rather than wearing black in sorrow, you wear white. You know, just very simple things, but very obvious. Or why do people dance in some cultures at funerals, and in some cultures you are in deep tears?
Yes.
And really mourning means something different.
Yeah.
So these are just some examples, very stark examples of differences, but there's such nuances that you know, when we laugh about something in a different culture, it would be, you know, like, why they are laughing about that?
Yeah.
Not funny. Or that joke is not really acceptable. And going back to my experience when I migrated, people would laugh about something and I would sort of sit there and think, oh my God, what am I missing here? Something
Yes.
important.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I
Cultures.
got laughed at all the time for phrases that I used, you know, British phrases, and they would laugh, you know, and it's and at first I thought they're making fun of me. And then I realized, no, they're kind of making fun of what I'm saying, my culture, right? So I turned it more into entertainment. So if you want to have a laugh, then I'll give you something else to laugh at. And
That's a big thing to actually be able, have that ability to, and cognitive ability to recognize that moment and say, well, it doesn't mean I'm bad, or it doesn't mean they're bad. It just means we are different and we can still coexist.
yeah, and you know, it doesn't mean that you know, how you react to something, that you didn't have the sucker punch in your stomach, right? That it didn't hurt. But it's like, you know, people say things without understanding, you know, that they are hitting you in the gut. And it's how do you bring it around to them that that hurt without acting like the wounded person? And, you know, and it's taking that higher ground. My mum used to say the value you put on yourself is the value that people take you for. And that took a long time for me to realize that. But I was bullied a great deal growing up because I was a sickly child. And so when I came out of bed, and whether it was in boarding school or back at school, sometimes they thought I was a new girl because I was gone so long. So I got buried a lot. You know, literally kids dragged me by the hair, dug a hole in the ground to bury me like a weed. And stupidly, they did it right outside the principal's office, the window. So she saw them, right? So, and it's, you look at that, but at the same time, they would come to me for counsel because I was that spiritual counselor by God's design, and they would come to me for counsel. But you're burying me one moment, counseling the next. How do I navigate this? And I just learned it, just navigate it in the now. And my spirit would know this isn't about you, it's about them. right?
Mhm.
But my ego, I suppose, would feel it was an attack on me. So,
Yeah,
and that's the thing, is drawing a difference between kind of your ego feeling hurt, my feelings are hurt, rather than they are portraying a, a pain they're going through, which they've inflicted on you. So it's actually their issue that they're imposing upon you. We've got to take a step back sometimes and have a look at, did I invite this, or where is it coming from, or in what they're saying, are they actually asking for help?
exactly. And not necessarily taking things personally.
Yes,
That's a big
yes,
thing. Yeah, I've learned to, yes, to think, is this exactly about me?
yeah,
Or it's something different? Or it's something bigger? Or it's something, completely unexpected? And sometimes it can be,
yeah,
because we don't know where people are coming from. We,
right,
we do know that for some close people around us, my best friend, and my children. I sort of think, yes, I'll be quite okay to recognize things. But, with some people, I have no idea where they're coming from. And
exactly.
it comes and you sort of think, oh, okay, I don't need to take this personally. Maybe it has nothing to do with me. Maybe they've just had a bad morning.
Exactly. And you're the person there to dump on. And of
Yeah.
course, if you are a person that chooses to live with a positive attitude, that sometimes is an invite for people because they can't stand you being so positive when they're in such agony, right? And instead of being, it's, inspiration begets invitation. How do you be so positive? I want to know, I want to be able to do that. They want to pull you down to their level. And that is, you have every right that, yeah, to say, I wish you well, I wish you love, but no, I'm not going there, which is really important. Now, your book, Unexpected Life, when did you decide to write this? I know for my own, it was like a few years, everybody nagging me to do it, and then 3 weeks to sitting down and writing it. So what was the process for you?
I have been involved in women's health and women's rights, let's say, movements over the past, I don't know, 3 decades, even
Mhm.
longer. Because I was the first child in my family, and my father was strict, but he was, and there is a logic in what I'm saying now. I'm going all the way back.
Mhm.
He was always treating me as just a human being. Okay,
Yeah.
so it was not a daughter, son. He's got a son as well. My brother and all of that. But I was always free to do whatever I wanted to do as long as it was right. I mean, okay, he was the one, who would
You
say, well,
decided what was right. Yeah.
luckily he had good ethics, so that was all good. But I was encouraged to go and do my diploma, and I was encouraged to go and do my legal studies and to become a lawyer and to, you know, uh, sing and dance and
Mhm.
all of that. Uh, so being a woman, I actually then had a different perspective when I moved to Australia. I have to say that I discovered a world that I had not been aware of.
Mhm.
One of my first positions, activities was after I learned sort of the basic language skills, acquired those first English language skills, was to work in a refuge, women's refuge.
Mhm.
And that opened my eyes
Mhm.
to um, women submission, domestic violence, struggle with housing, financial aspect, little children, um, uh, maltreatments in from many aspects. And that was really when I thought I really would like to capture some
Mhm.
things about women that I have experienced.
Yeah.
And then it sort of set in me because I was working full time and children and
Mhm.
this and that. And then about a few years back, when I retired from full time work, I went back to that idea and I thought, I'm going to write about my life surrounded by all these wonderful women who are now my friends and who made a difference in my life, but I also hoped and hoped that I made some difference, positive difference in their lives. And then I thought, okay, I put the names down and I thought, okay, I'm going to write about them. And I thought, why would I write about them? Why wouldn't I invite them to write about themselves?
Exactly.
And that was an aha moment somewhere back in 2020. COVID started.
Yeah.
Couldn't really even go and meet with them. So we had beautiful Zoom discussions. And apart from two women, two friends of mine who had some personal challenges, one had a husband who was unwell and later unfortunately died. So she really couldn't commit to anything except and working with me on the book. And another one was just diagnosed with cancer. So yeah, she had other priorities. But others, 11 friends of mine that I met in Australia from all over the world, migrated at approximately the same age, around the 30 or something, some younger, some a bit older, and started their lives new. I knew in Australia. They all said yes. And we started working on their stories. We had Zoom conversations, as I said. I jotted some ideas down. I would go back to them. And then I thought, rather than doing it all myself, let's just work together as a team. And then we engaged an editor who actually looked through everything and made sure that it all made sense in first grammatical, but then other sense as well, sort of styling and all of that. And then we found a publisher, and it was just a beautiful experience. And I love the book.
With I'm in 3 anthologies right now. One that I produced myself, Our Forgotten Children, which was basically from podcasts around our children. I'm realizing we have to change the system. We have to change things. So I invited other people to participate in the book, and it's book 1 in the series. And then I'm part of 2 other books as an anthology. And the beauty of anthologies is that you are getting the diverse points of view, the diverse experiences around the same subject, right? So, one is living fearlessly. So, well, what was my chapter on fear and somebody else's chapter on overcoming fear? And that means the reader isn't just going to get kind of one instrument all the way through it. They're getting the entire orchestra. And that's the beauty of it. So your common denominator is everybody's come from somewhere else and adjusted to a new life. They've all gone through their own experiences. But in sharing those experiences, not only opens the eyes of other people who have never gone anywhere, who know people who have immigrated, or I didn't know you went through this struggle, or I didn't know this, I didn't know that. But for other people who are looking to move to another country, sharing those experiences now becomes like, okay, so these are the obstacles or these are the things that I'm going to face, but look where they are today and how happy they are. Maybe I feel more confident in the choice of moving countries. So it's illuminating, it's inspiring, it's educating, and it's inviting, right?
I believe so, yes. People that I've interviewed, the women who share their life stories, and it's in a nutshell, all of those chapters are, stories that are just a nutshell, in a nutshell, lives, and some gentle touches on some important events, experiences, thoughts, emotions, etc. But it's enough to actually give us a picture of that person. And all of us, and that's why I chose them, because I had to choose who to interview.
Right. Yeah.
They do have that positivity. And they've gone through from struggle to struggle and happiness and challenges. And they are where they are now, all of us, older, wiser, more beautiful, more experienced, and I would say that all of us are happier than we thought 30 years ago when we first met.
Mhm.
And I remember the first woman that I interviewed and who became one of my best friends ever, Sarah from Afghanistan. We met in Canberra in on arrival course, English language course. And in her story, she says, and I forgot about that. She says, I remember meeting Vesna in a corridor and she was crying. And I'm thinking, goodness me, I do remember now, but
Mm.
I had completely
Yes,
forgotten about that.
yes,
And she came, we couldn't talk. We could talk, everyone in
yes,
their own
but nobody
language.
could understand each other.
Well, yeah, communicate. But I then remembered that moment, and she says, and I remember you, and we hugged and we supported each other. And that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship,
Yeah.
as they say in Casablanca. But yes, and then so it was Afghanistan. Then I sort of weave my story, or other people's stories are woven in the book chronologically, and
Hmm.
it is an anthology of a kind. But each story has that power of positivity, power of expectation, um, an awareness of self, not taking it personally,
Hmm.
turning, lemons into lemonade.
Yes.
That sort of
Mm.
attitude really all along. And if I may, I'll just say that some of the experiences have political background
Hmm.
because not everyone was pushed out of their country,
Hmm.
or we are all migrants, all 12 of us. But some people have just chosen that what they were living in in their countries was not for them any longer,
Right.
and that was something that made them think and rethink their lives, and that was the challenge. And then when you think about Peru,
Hmm.
um, South Africa, you
Yes.
lived.
Yes.
There is a woman who left South Africa because she felt it wasn't for her anymore.
It's one of the
Uh,
reasons I left, the apartheid,
yes,
even the misogyny at that time, but it was, it was getting worse and worse and worse with the apartheid and the repression. And I just, it was a beautiful country. Just, my daughter loves Australia. She lived there 18 months, would move there if she could have. Um, would have loved South Africa. She's been there twice, but it's exquisitely beautiful country, but still had so many archaic views on things, and especially the political. And of course, after I left, the whole thing came to a head, and it's
yes,
still going through its transformation. And
yes,
what happens, with the butterfly as a caterpillar, it is being completely transformed into something else. And this is where we discover our courage, our strength, our abilities, our why, our meaningful purpose. But if we're not willing to go through the struggle, we're not willing to become who we really are meant to be, understanding what we're really here to do. So those
yeah.
struggles define us, right? It's a beautiful journey when you look back on it and you go, gosh,
And some of those things that were happening in those countries are multi-generational. It's
yes.
not one off or one generation event. It's something that is going to take years and years and
It's going to
decades.
take several generations before things
And, I-
stabilize. Yeah.
and a couple of women, actually, it happened. It's so interesting. I never knew anyone, I had never known anyone from Romania, and it's only a neighboring country to
All right.
Serbia or
Yeah.
Yugoslavia. And there were actually two women from Romania. And when you think about Ceausescu, and when you think about, the, hard party line that was driven, that was driving that life in Romania
Mhm.
for so many years. And they decided as young women, it was not for them. And then you hear that. So there are political, then there are economic struggles as well, financial. Yeah, okay. I think I can do better somewhere. I just need to find where. And it was Australia.
That's with that explanation, that willingness to explore, right? You may go
Yes,
to one country and it's not for you, but it doesn't mean just because you've gone there from A now to B that you need to stay there. I was on my way when I came to Canada. I was on my way back to the States. That's where I wanted to go and live. And then I met my ex-husband and proceeded to have, 3 kids, cat, dog, and a divorce. And then I still thought I was going to go back to the States, and things went wrong. And then I understand now why, because I certainly wouldn't have been able to suffer the last president without saying something. So it was maybe just as well I wasn't there. But the thing is, the willingness you take, and this is something I'm always saying, because Canada is a very immigrant country, just like America, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, right? They're all very much immigrant countries. And we've got to realize that when we go to a new country, bring some of your culture and your flavor, bring
Mm,
some of your wisdom and historical traditions that are deep rooted but have a purpose, and immerse them in and amongst these other cultures. Don't go in there and go, no, I'm bringing my culture to you, your culture can leave. So,
mm,
and this is what we do see with a lot, and this is what causes a lot of resentment over
mm,
immigrants in some countries, because they come in there and change their country, the country they come to their own country, without respecting the country they're in. There is an obligation as an immigrant that when we
mm.
go, bring your flavor and your essence and immerse it in there, but do not dictate that others have to immerse with you.
As they call it, that melting pot, and
Hmm.
it's a multi generational experience, and I can understand some of those things that you've said. Probably applies to that first generation.
Hmm.
Then comes the second generation,
Yes.
and they are the people, your and my children, who have been immersed
Hmm.
in one culture, in the one that where they live. For example, my children in Australia, but then they have so much
Hmm.
influence from us, who are the first generation
Yes.
migrants, with the way we celebrate, with the way we
Hmm.
like, with the way I arrange things in my house.
Yeah.
All of that. There is really that combination of
Yes.
things. And once they got into their own relationship, there is more and more of mixing. But
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. And,
about
that's what makes it so very interesting. And yes, I do understand that you want to keep some of your culture. Like, I mean, when you look at my home, it's full of antiques from Britain, because that's what I was brought up with. I love antiques. I love the history of antiques and the history that these pieces of furniture have had with me. They've been everywhere in the world with me. So, but my kids look at it and go, so British, and
mm,
it's, yeah, okay, it is. It is. It's
right.
part of who I am. Uh, but again, it's having them also understand why you're like that, but
Mm,
also us being flexible enough to
yes.
immerse ourselves into this new world and all that this new world has to give us, because
Mm,
we're there for a reason. All right, and
mhm,
now we need to immerse ourselves into that, and find that that synergy between your culture, your past, your history, and what is being
mm,
offered today. But when you merge it together, it's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
mm. It can be very painful though, Sarah. It
Hmm.
can be very painful, and I think that some people who have left their countries unwillingly,
Yes.
I think
War torn.
they
Yeah.
really tough. They
Yes.
have it tough.
Yes.
And I think that's where the pain of not belonging
Hmm.
actually hurts the most.
I've interviewed a lot of people that, have escaped countries due to their sexual orientation, and they
Mm,
would have been completely persecuted or even killed.
mm,
So they had to leave family, they had to leave everyone, or family turned against them for the fear of acknowledging that they were a different sexual orientation. So they're not just leaving a culture and a country that they know. One gentleman literally went to London and lived on the streets. I mean, he runs a huge empire now, and does really big because he has that determination and that drive and that ambition. But when he started off, he was that wounded young man that had to say goodbye to everything,
mm,
because of his sexual orientation, and that persecution. And so we've got to understand that, yes, if we're willing to go to a country and start anew, it was our choice. Having to go to a new country because your life, depended on it, and you're saying goodbye to everything that you knew is very, very hard. And I think we need to understand there is trauma there, and we need to respect that trauma and help people through it, because there's self-persecution very often is much worse than even the persecution of other people's judgment, right?
But when you mentioned that, and look, it's just touching on a huge, huge subject about people coming and wanting to change and say, the culture that I found should leave or something. And I think about the indigenous cultures and indigenous people in a number of countries, your country, my,
Exactly. Yeah, we're going for a huge transformation right now. Yes.
yeah, that is really something that is a challenge for civilization. I think it's a
And the
really
only way we're going to face that challenge is face it.
yeah.
There's, for so long it's been, put under the rug,
Mm-hmm,
la 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 la, and now it's in our face. And
mm-hmm,
although this generation, we didn't do it, it
mm-hmm,
was done. And we're
mm-hmm.
the ones that are here to pick up the mess and say, very sorry for everything else that happened, but
Yeah,
now we need to help you on your path of recovery and your
yes.
path of liberation. And we've got to
Mm-hmm.
understand, well, I didn't do that. No, you didn't. Your ancestors did that, but you're here now to make amends and help them heal from it, because you need to be a part of the healing.
Yes, yes. And it's healing on both sides.
Yes, yes. I mean, you look at what some people, there was that, you look at animals, they don't hurt each other for joy. There's a reason behind it, fear of food or flight. When we look at human beings, the things that we do to each other, for,
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, is that how can we? How can we inflict that pain on another so willingly, so joyfully? And I think very often that is a person without heart or soul, completely
Mm-hmm.
lost of
Living,
spirit. Hmm.
living after all of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And with that choosing of positive living, with that choice to look at the sunny side of the street, I now live on the sunny side of the street. For a long time, I lived in that darkness, in that tunnel, and too scared to cross the street, too scared even to come out of the tunnel for the fear of whatever I would face. And then eventually that light got so big, I had to go into it. And then you feel the shadows are chasing you, and then you eventually kind of become at one with the light, and the shadows aren't chasing you, they're contouring you, they're contrasting you, and you can look at that darkness. You can't go back in and pull anyone out. They've got to come to the road, to the curbside where you can help them cross, but they've got to
Mm-hmm.
be willing to do that. And with anything in life, isn't it, when people are in conflict with self or with anyone else, there's the street itself. Let's meet in the street and talk there.
Yeah, and there is that point of reconciliation where that should come, and everyone needs to be aware when they are searching for it, when it becomes clear and there and present, that we are present with it as well. That's really important.
And I think to honor somebody's wound. I know
Mm-hmm.
you're wounded by this, or I know you're hurting because of this. Don't just brush it off. Acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think very often anybody that's in conflict is because I don't feel seen, heard, you did something to me and you're not paying attention. If we can acknowledge it and
Mm-hmm.
apologize for it wholeheartedly, and to say, now where can we go from here?
We
And
go
that,
together.
yeah,
Yes,
and
yes,
that's
yes.
but that both sides have to come to that
Yeah.
reconciliation, and also let that forgiveness happen so that you
Mm.
can move forward.
And that's about self-awareness.
Yeah.
And we touched that some time
Hmm.
ago in our conversation. But there's that self-awareness and not being big-headed,
Yes.
but being big enough to recognize that the need for it and to
Yeah.
say, have I contributed to this?
Hmm.
Have I in any way made that person suffer? And the feedback to ourselves should be honest enough so that we can say yay or nay, and how can I deal with this.
Yeah.
And I think that honesty is really important, that we reach out and that we are also open when someone reaches out to us.
Yes. Yes.
And that's one more point I want to make about apologies. And that touches on, apologies for previous wrongs and all of that. But also when someone apologizes to us, that we are humble,
Yeah.
but be to really open up
Yeah.
and say, I do really accept that apology.
Yeah.
And also the other person, when we sincerely apologize, that we can do it in a way that that person feels
Yeah.
it is, and it is fair, and it is really heartfelt.
Yes. No shame, no blame, and no retaliation.
Yeah,
Acknowledgement,
yeah,
forgiveness, take a deep breath, let it go. Now, with a positive attitude, where can we go forward? And that positive attitude is entirely up to us, isn't it?
yes, it's a choice. Often it is a
Yeah.
choice, most. And can I say where people can get my book?
Yes, where they can buy the book and where they can find you and what you are offering them.
Okay, so my website is professional website is impactmediation.net. That's where I offer my mediation services. I offer them online and in person, of course, in Australia, but online anywhere in the world speaks English or Serbian. The other thing is, and I also am, I've just started writing a blog there as well about mediation. One of the areas that I specialize in is elder mediation. And as the civilization generally tends to or has been in process of extending human life, we will see more and more people in the late 70s, 80s, and 90s that have challenges of various kinds. And mediation, elder mediation, is one of the areas that can really assist people deal with issues of aging, health, loneliness, family issues, intergenerational conflict and disputes, financial issues, housing issues, and a number of other issues, of course, health as well, that aging population is dealing with. So I just wanted to put that.
No, there's a book that I'm putting out right now, which is on for coaches, but the next book after that is Our Forgotten Seniors. Right, so
yes.
I will be looking for authors that want to contribute a chapter to that, because just as we are not, systems are wrong for the children, boy, are they wrong, because we've never, ever in the history of time had so many aging people living so long. And so we were not prepared for it.
Work together.
Yeah, exactly. We're not prepared for it. And, I lived before I moved here with a 90-year-old who still drove, still cooked. When the movers came to move me and they found her moving furniture around, they go, not only does she stand erect, but she can move this furniture around. She's turning 91. They were just flabbergasted, right? But short-term memory going, so it can be taken advantage of. And this is the thing is, another story of people, they spent 1.2 million in a retirement home thinking it would last them until they die. They outlived the money and they were put in the basement on cots. And they're in the hundreds, right? Which is, you think 1.2 million and it's going to last you, and it didn't. And this is how they were treated, So it's, that's a huge subject. In fact, I'd love to do a show just on that, because that is a huge subject on our aging population that none of us have prepared for, because nobody expected us to live this long.
Yes, exactly. And that's just touching the surface of all the issues that go really deep. Then my book can be found on Amazon Books worldwide. There is an e-version, Kindle version, and people can order paper copies. It's called Unexpected Life by Vesna Cvjeticanin. And we will have my name somewhere spelled
Yes,
correctly.
yes, we will. We will. I'm going to spell it out for people right now. Cvjeticanin. All right, so you can catch it there. Of course, here, all you need to do is put in her name. Even if you put Vesna Flower, Vesna Flower, into the search engine on selfdiscoverywisdom.com, you will actually find her show with her book and how you can reach her and everything else. So if you're listening to this on a different way, there's a link right there that you can connect right back to the page and get the book and reach out to her. And yeah, I mean, you said that you were quote retired, but now you have your own business doing your own thing with plans
Yes,
of X, Y, and Z. And that's actually a huge
love it.
thing about life, right?
I love it. You know
Yeah,
what? I'm my own boss in my own time.
exactly.
I have free time when I want to have free time, and I have education, ongoing education, professional development in the way I enjoy it. You know, no pressure,
Hmm.
no judgment.
Yes.
Um, I just love it.
Yeah. And then, this is the thing, folks, it's not over until we're over, until,
Yeah,
the door gets closed on the human body and the spirit flies off. But until then, live with a positive attitude, live with the ambition of accomplishment of what you can accomplish today. Do not put age, do not put finances, do not put culture, do not put anything in your way, right? It's
life
all
is great.
achievable with the right attitude. So most
Yes,
certainly. Thank you so much for sharing here today. You're quite a journey, quite diverse here and everything that you're doing. And you know, whether professional mediation between two parties, we're all mediating something along the way, aren't we? And I think it's like understanding the techniques behind it, how to listen, how what to speak from what you have heard, and paying attention and respect for each other where we're at. If you acknowledge where you're both at or where the parties are at, then it's a better understanding of how to move forward, right? Nobody's,
yes.
I'm right, you're wrong. No, you're both right from your perspective. But how do we
Mm.
find a common ground? And I think that's something we could do with a positive attitude in all aspects of our life. So great. Enjoy Sevilla. And who knows if you're going to pack up and go and leave Australia altogether, or if you're going to do 6 months here and 6 months there, right?
Why not?
Why
Where
not?
we come.
Exactly, exactly. You work online, you can do it anywhere, and the next book and the next book can be done anywhere. And that's the beauty of getting older, is that we do have more choices. And again, positive attitude, you can do anything, right?
Yes, exactly. I agree. Thank you,
So
Sarah. Thank you so much for this chat. I really enjoyed it.
thank you very much. And folks, there's so much that we've covered here today with emigration, with mediation, with positive attitude, with embracing changes. And remember, I love you to have a podcast party where everybody listens to the podcast and takes notes, and then you have a conversation after. And there's so many subjects we've clicked on here today. It will make a great conversation, whether you're looking to emigrate,
Good
whether
idea.
you're working with people emigrating or mediation. Have that conversation, because that's how knowledge expands. So until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration, it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.